talking ASU football. The Sun Devils finally, after 7 months of waiting, they're back on the field playing USC at the Coliseum on Saturday. 9 o'clock kickoff California time. That's 10 our time. Jeff, do you think that's going to matter either way?
I think it has to some degree. I mean, nobody plays football on the West Coast at that time. So, but the whole situation is so unusual anyway, with no fans, having waited this long, playing only a six or seven game season, that I don't know if one outweighs the other in terms of a weirdness factor.
I've got to think the team's going to be ready to go. They've been waiting for this for a while. ASU is debuting a new offense and a new defense. So let's start with the offense. You've got Zach Hill coming in from Boise State. We've heard about this crazy offense. Do you think it's an advantage for ASU to be playing USC the first game, given that the Trojans aren't going to have a lot of film to go off of?
Yeah, you could look at that both ways, though, because they also have a new defensive coordinator that comes from Texas. And so ASU doesn't quite know how that's going to go. So you can argue that both ways, I think. But from an offensive standpoint, with what Zach Hill has put on tape at Boise State, and then how that he's going to adapt that here with Jayden Daniels and sort of Herm Edwards as the overarching kind of authority, I guess, if you want to put it that way, it's going to be interesting to see how all that blends together and what ASU actually looks like on offense.
I really like this offense for Jayden Daniels. I think this is tailor-made for him. And even if USC goes back and watches old Boise State film, it's different personnel. You got freak athletes like a Johnny Wilson out there, and everybody's talked about what he can do, and these freshman running backs that are so great. So I think that even if they go back and they watch film from a Boise State, you kind of can't really judge that because you don't know the personnel you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's true. And I think everybody's sort of looking forward to the kind of shifts in the motion and the deception of this offense. And then in kind of the big picture, remember all the close games that ASU has played the last 2 years because they couldn't really get enough of a gap to make a lot of these games comfortable. And I think that was sort of the whole genesis of making an offensive coordinator change in the first place. So whether they can do it against USC, I'm not sure. But in the big picture, I think what you want to see is ASU able to open up bigger leads and not have to play all these coin flip games at the end.
Agreed. Let's go to the defense. And we know that ASU moving to a defense that's a 4-man front as opposed to 3-3-5 that they've played the last few years. They need to get a pass rush. That's kind of the thing that everybody's been talking about basically the last 3 years. What is your take on how this defense is going to play moving forward? And I've got to think it's a strength of the ASU defense. They returned 9 starters, and some of those guys are now in their third year starting. So I got to think that the defense is going to be a strength of this team.
Well, for sure, everybody feels that way about the back seven because they're strong in the secondary and the linebackers are pretty experienced, the starting linebackers anyway. The question then becomes, what have you got up front? And with a new defensive line coach, and hopefully one that'll be here for a while because they've had huge turnover at that coaching position.
Prediction time. Pressure's on. I'll go first. I'm going to say 28-21 USC. As much as I'd like to think, I think ASU can win the game. But again, when you're breaking in a new offense and a new defense, you didn't have those tune-up games, if you want to call them that, to kind of iron out the kinks. So I think ASU can win it, but I'm going to go the safer route and say USC by 7.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on USC winning. I'm not quite sure on the margin. I would like to think that both teams might have enough on offense, especially with the talented quarterback on both teams, to get up into the 30s. So I could see it maybe being a somewhat higher score than what you said. I wouldn't rule it out that ASU could win, but I also wouldn't pick them to win. I really think it's more likely that USC would win this game. And then the Cal game next week, which is the home opener, if you want to put it that way, with no fans, becomes really important for ASU in terms of how high of a ceiling they have for this very short season.
Well, stay tuned. Kickoff coming up. on Saturday. And again, it's early, 10 o'clock Arizona time.